The Void Archer has the power to conjure arrows from thin air on top of enemies in order to deal massive damage. He uses the Lion's Greatbow to snipe targets from a safe range and the Hornbow for close combat. And when archery is not an option, he has a broadsword as a backup while also having access to a few gravity spells. Without further delay, let's start with the stats. 45 Vigor will give us a decent amount of HP. 16 Mind is the minimum needed to summon the Spirit Ash, which costs 100 FP. 21 Endurance is the minimum needed to mid-roll. 52 Strength and 44 Dexterity will give our weapons decent damage. 18 Intelligence will give us access to the weaker gravity spells, and no points are needed into Fate and Arcane for this build. I like to use the Lion's Greatbow to snipe targets from distance or when bosses are not targeting me. It has descaling in both strength and dexterity, and its skill is amazing against big enemies and dragons. Radahn's Rain can be used in some scenarios where bosses are vulnerable or when they cannot hit you. But most of the times it's not a great option mid-combat. For that I use the Hornbow, which also has descaling in strength and dexterity. It is faster to shoot, we can shoot while jumping, which is great against Godfrey, and we can also use it while riding Torrent. The Rain of Arrows skill is similar to Radahn's Rain, but it's faster to cast and shoots less arrows, so it deals less damage. Stormwing Bone arrows are the best ammunition for this bow, but since they must be crafted, I prefer not to waste them on normal enemies. This is where the quality broadsword comes into action. It has B-scaling in both strength and dexterity, so by having a lot of points into these stats, we will deal good damage. When buffed by the flask and the Blood Boil aromatic, we reach 763 AR. I picked the Royal Knight's Resolve Ash of War because it's very fast to use and the next hit we land with the sword deals 80% more damage. The headpiece I use is the Okina mask, which raises our dexterity stat by 3 points. The rest of the set is completed by the Ronin pieces with the altered armor. These pieces were picked purely for the looks, and you are forced to agree with me that it looks amazing. The Shard of Alexander will improve the power of our skills by 15%. Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman will reduce the physical damage we receive by 20%. Arrow's Sting Talisman will improve the damage of our arrows by 10%, while Arrow's Reach Talisman will increase the range from which we can use our bows, which is great against enemies like the Elden Beast. But in small arenas like Morgoth's and Godfrey's it is useless, so I suggest replacing it with something like the Erdtree's Favor +2, which raises our maximum HP by 4%, stamina by 9.6% and equip load by 8%. We have access to Rock Sling and Gravity Well, which can be useful in some situations, but I haven't really used them that much. Still, they offer us another alternative if archery or melee combat are not an option. The Spirit Ash for this build is the Banished Knight Oleg. He is quite tanky and very aggressive, which is very useful for keeping the aggro on him while we shoot from distance. Overall, amazing summon for this build. In the Flask of Wondrous Physique, I used the Strength and Dexterity Knot tiers for 10 bonus points into each of these stats for 3 minutes. I like to use the Blood Boil aromatic during boss fights for the 30% bonus physical damage it provides. It also boosts our maximum stamina by 20%, but we receive 25% more damage for a minute. It's a great buff, especially if the Spirit Ash does his job and tanks well. But if you think the downsides are not worth it, you can use Exalted Flesh instead for 20% bonus physical damage for 30 seconds. Going to 70 strength and dexterity will greatly improve the damage you deal with the bows and the broadsword. The remaining points can be placed into vigor for more HP. If you liked this build, check out the previous ones and stay tuned because I will reorganize the Death Sorcery and Bestial Incantations builds, and I'll add 1 or 2 more for each magic school. Bye.